Did you ever go back to a city after maybe a decade or more and think to yourself, man, the vibe is just not what it used to be? Maybe it's a much quieter neighborhood, or maybe less safe, or there could just be a homeless guy shooting up a needle for his daily fix. But regardless, this is happening to many cities across America, often because of major industries leaving a particular region or even relocating to another country, leaving a big chunk of the population jobless and forcing them to move somewhere else. While some American cities are growing quickly, the cities that you're going to see on this list are going in the opposite direction as they lose more and more of their residents every year. As you'll see, there can be different reasons for this, and they can certainly be connected. If people do end up leaving, that makes the economy shrink, which leads to more crime, which will naturally make people leave anyway, because not a whole lot of folks enjoy getting robbed, stabbed, or shot while trying to find a job, at the same time being bored out of their minds, because they live in a place where the most entertaining action is the infallible tube man at some depressing car dealership. Baltimore, Maryland. Back in 2018, Baltimore experienced its highest population drop in one single year since 2001. Unfortunately, when you think of Baltimore, you think of crime. Even though Maryland is the state with the highest median household income, the city of Baltimore suffers from a very weak job market, high crime rates, and poor housing options. In 2019, Baltimore City Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark stated, quote, "The population will come back as soon as we get all this violence under control," which she might be right, but it's going to take a lot of work to fix the heavy crime issue. Seriously though, Baltimore does have the highest homicide rate in the country. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. One thing that Pittsburgh can be happy about is the ever-increasing flow of immigrants to the area. I mean, at least for those who like immigrants. Hopefully this will help Pittsburgh grow since, again, a lot of its inhabitants have been moving elsewhere in recent years. Some people just can't find a job there, or they're simply looking for different scenery, or just like it happens anywhere else in the country, they go to the other side of the planet because they fell in love with a gross guy pretending to be a Russian woman on an online dating platform. St. Louis, Missouri. This one is the deadliest city in the US. There's actually a violent crime rate of over 2,000 per 100,000 people. So that's basically 1 in 50 people experiencing violent crime. I don't know about you, but I don't like those odds. Or I guess I could do it, but then I would have to be among the people committing the violent crime. So yeah, I guess that sounds better. Seriously though, I'm not a violent crime guy, but you gotta admit, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, moving there is not a good idea. Would it really be worth staying in a city where they slice their bagels like loaves of bread? Yes, they actually do that, by the way. And it's the deadliest city in America. I'm not sure what the connection is here, but I'm convinced it is one. Like, maybe slicing your bagels like that is closely linked to a psychopathic personality trait? Just a theory I have. Cleveland, Ohio. This city's decline is largely due to companies leaving the city, like John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company, which used to provide thousands of jobs to Clevelanders and was apparently broken up because of a lawsuit by the US government. That happened in 1911 though, but it is something that has kept happening since and is one of the best examples of explaining a dying city. Some cities are highly dependent on their local industries, and if a big company disappears or maybe moves somewhere else, then people will leave to find work elsewhere. Just to give you an idea of just how bad the city is doing, take a look at these numbers. In the last 50 years, the population has declined by nearly 60%. Anchorage, Alaska. No offense to old people here, but the senior population of Anchorage is growing at triple the rate of the national average. And that's not really a good thing. Look, I'm not saying there shouldn't be less old people, okay? It's just that a rapidly aging population ends up meaning fewer working-aged people, which leads to a series of negative consequences for the economy. This isn't an economics channel, but hopefully you'll get the gist of it. The population of this Alaskan city has been slowly declining since the 1980s, and part of the biggest reason is because people are leaving due to the fact that it has a high rate of constant crime. In other words, all the younger folks are letting their parents and grandparents fend for themselves. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Americans in general struggle with obesity, but it's far worse in certain places, including Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is among the top cities in America with the worst diets, with 1/3 of the population being obese and around 40% reporting that they don't eat healthy. And that's just the people who reported not eating healthy. Most people don't even know that they're eating crap in general. With that being said, does that have anything to do with the declining population? Well, we can assume that it does add to why people aren't satisfied with their lives there, but it's probably just one small step on the rest. Baton Rouge ended up suffering from much of the same things that we mentioned with other cities, but the declining population in recent years can also be attributed to the 2016 flood. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This city got really unlucky when it came to its repopulation. It used to be known as one of the country's most segregated cities, and now it ranks at the bottom of the list for startups. This makes it very unlikely that companies will bring their business to the city. In addition, equity went up with a bigger upper class and a bigger lower class, shrinking the percentage of middle-class families in the last 30 years. The poorest parts of the city have a higher infant mortality rate than Syria, which just sounds insane, and I'm guessing Milwaukee isn't being targeted by rockets. Jackson, Mississippi. This city is half the national average when it comes to home values, with homes averaging around $56,000. So it's not doing great. Not a surprising one here, as it's Mississippi, and, I mean, seriously, come on. Mississippi. To be fair, they did receive a $1 million grant in 2019 to redo their transportation system. So, crossing our fingers here, but if the city sucks in the first place, you wouldn't want to get around anyway, so I'm not really seeing the point here of them just fixing the roads. Buffalo, New York. New York State seems to be doing okay, but not Buffalo. Since 2010, Buffalo has lost about 5% of its population, but the decline of the city can be traced back at least to 1983 with the loss of the Bethlehem steel plant, which left over 10,000 people unemployed. And I guess that makes residents realize that, well, they could move to literally any other city, so why would they even stay in Buffalo in the first place? Before its decline, though, it was the largest grain milling center in the US, which still didn't justify staying in Buffalo, to be honest. And then, classic story, the heavy industries and steel mills moved to other regions and countries. Before that happened, however, Buffalo had more millionaires per capita than any other city. Detroit, Michigan. Now, this one is a bit more complex than a lot of the others, and let me explain. Detroit's always had a bad reputation, and it certainly has suffered through a lot, including going through bankruptcy. That's right, the entire city of Detroit filed for bankruptcy. Formerly one of the fastest growing cities in the US, the home of Motown Records started dying out largely due to the decline of the automobile industry, as many car companies were pulling out. Walking in some parts of Detroit can sometimes feel like it's a ghost town, with quiet streets and empty buildings. Detroit's actually known for its abandoned houses, which you can buy for as little as $1. Man, imagine being rich enough to buy one of those. On the flip side, the city has been emerging from bankruptcy with some plans for improvement and is now one of the top cities for millennial job seekers. While the population is still shrinking, residents are confident that everything will turn around. As you can see, tons of people are moving away from these dying cities. If you're wondering where everybody's moved to, then check out this video, which shows the fastest growing cities in America for 2021.